Folks in here. Whoa, we are at 31 already. This is great. Howdy, everybody. Hey, my name's Lucas. Welcome. Hi to Virtual Happy Hour with the Chicago Brewseum. Nifty. I am enjoying my homebrewed Bière de Garde here. This is, yeah, it's a French country style beer. It is, the keg's about kicked, so it's a little foamy here, but it's fairly tasty. So yeah, I brewed this inspired by the upcoming exhibition at the Art Institute on Claude Monet. I think I'm doing a nice French country beverage. And that's one thing where I want to start with actually is, let's see if I can find out where my screen is to share here.
Do you have the can, Lucas?
First,
my wife needs to see the my wife needs to see the can.
Oh, it is all right. No, we're good. We're cool.
It's homebrew.
So this is drinking games in history. Dun, dun, dun. My camera's kind of low, so it's looking like I'm looking over all your heads. I got another screen behind, so I'm rocking it with high quality stuff going on here. But something I wanted to share. You probably saw this drop not too long ago, just this week, was the collaboration between the Chicago Brewseum and the Art Institute Chicago and Half Acre Brewery in Chicago. Stacks of wheat in honor of the Monet exhibition, or in celebration of Monet and his heritage and legacy and his great Chicago connections. So this exhibition, of course, we're all here living in quarantine and they've been saying social distancing. I don't like that term. It's physical distancing, but we're in social proximity here, right? That's what this happy hour is all about. And so this stacks of wheat, though, you could pick it up now. It's in stores and at the brewery. And I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully supplies will last when the museum opens up again. But great. So this, I'm hoping very much to keep this as a bit of something of a lively chat, lively conversation. Well, let me see. Gosh, I don't know. Do we still have? Oh, I gotta admit a few more participants here. It looks like I have to. Do I have to do this manually? Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just have to keep tabs on that. I thought I switched that, but anyway, we're all learning in this new environment here of virtual learning. So cool, spiffy. So this is the third in many virtual happy hours with the Chicago Brewseum, and this will be concentrating on drinking games in history. We are going to be we're going to be looking at a variety of different drinking games, past and near present. I think anything after, gosh, I don't know. I'm a antiquities specialist, so I'd like to joke anything after Cleopatra. That's current events as far as I'm concerned. So, but we're going to start off going into real deep antiquity. I should also say there's a fun chat box we can all contribute to. So open up the chat box and type away in there. You should find that somewhere in your Zoom controls. And in that chat box, that's a great place to enter, what beer you're drinking, or if it's not beer, that's okay. Even if we have some teetotalers out there, or just, that's really just for chit chat, that space there. Let's dive in. This document is just a Google Doc I got here. It's just my own notes, but at the same time, it is a handout in a sense for all y'all. And you see I made a nice little tiny URL up at the top here. So tinyurl.com/VLDG07E. So if you put that in, I think I shared it. Let's make sure. Okay, yeah, anyone in the whole world can access this. So if you type that tiny URL and you have access to all these, and most of what we'll be looking at are just web pages and such. I wanted to keep it as open as we could. I didn't want to create like a whole PowerPoint and such. But these are all just mostly public web pages. There are a few things in here that that you might not be publicly shared, but we'll be able to access them here. We're going to start off in deep antiquity, ancient Greece, going back to the drinking parties of the ancient Greek world. Drinking parties, so it's for the real 1% upper elite. You have these hoity-toities from ancient Greek antiquity gathering around these exclusively gentlemen's environments, and the only women generally that is, this is not the most sexually enlightened civilization, but the only gentlemen or ladies you would find at these drinking parties were typically, well, let's just say they're prostitutes, courtesans, if you will. So men lounging around, foppish aristocrats and such on these reclining couches with musicians and courtesans going around. The term, as you see on screen here, this is a slide from a past presentation that I did. It was the symposium. That's these ancient drinking parties in classical Greece, so high classical world, ancient Greece. This is around 500 to 400 BC and even a bit onward. Symposium, you think, oh great, a bunch of professors getting to eat together, having a little reading some papers, maybe a little wine and cheese perhaps at the end there. But no, in ancient Greece, symposium was a very different thing. Symposium was they would skip the papers, right? They would jump straight to the wine and maybe a little food as well as an option. The word, you see that on screen there, sim, as in like symmetry, together, and pulsion, which is really neat the way it's we transliterate that into our alphabet here. Looks like potion basically, right? But pulsion was just a drinker. And so this is simply a gathering of drinkers coming together. That's the symposium from ancient Greece. It was a bit of a raucous affair. And you think, lots of heavy drinking and such, and it can get a little wild. If you have read Plato's Symposium, you think, okay, Lucas, that's not a very raucous affair. There you got a bunch of these aristocrats lounging around and having a good time and philosophizing over grand things of what is love and such. And so, well, that's if you go back and reread the first paragraph of Plato's Symposium, maybe it's the third paragraph, I don't know, I haven't read it in a while, but I got the quote on screen, I'll read it for y'all. You see that they're actually recovering from a night of debauchery before. So it says, when dinner was over, they poured a libation to the gods, sang a hymn, and in short, followed the whole ritual. Then they turned their attention to drinking. And at that point, Pausanias addressed the group. He said, well, gentlemen, how can we arrange to drink less tonight? To be honest, I still have a terrible hangover from yesterday, and I could really use a break. And I dare say most of you two could too, since you were also part of the celebration. So let's try not to overdo it. Aristophanes chimes in. He says, good idea, Pausanias. We got to make a plan for going easy on the drink tonight. I was over my head last night, like the others. So you see, there's a lot of fun, even in Plato's Symposium there. Fun, and things could sometimes get a little out of hand. Here's an example of what's called a hydria from the Art Institute's collection. A hydria is, you can see it in the word or hear it in the word, really. It's just a water jar, a jug for holding water. But it shows actually a moment from the kind of after the symposium concluded. They'd usually go on a drunken parade through town, door to door, banging things, making a lot of shouts and noises, and causing a scene. So here you have one of these parades, and there's this young dandy doing some things that it's maybe well, I don't know. You can imagine for yourself what's happening there. But he's groping this young woman. Probably the woman, though, probably is of course one of these one of the courtesans aforementioned. So great piece. But yeah, absolutely. Things got a little out of hand in ancient Greece. This, I love this piece. Isn't it great? This is the interior of a drinking cup, and it shows a young woman trying to keep the headband on this young dandy as he is relieving himself of his overindulgence there. So a nice, lovely vomit scene from antiquity. There are quite a few similar representations of, well, vomiting from antiquity. So they knew how to get it on, right? Not much has changed, right? Here's an example of a side-by-side, a couple, another slide here. So we saw that hydria we already looked at, and then a crater, K-R-A-T-E-R, crater. You can see the word on screen there. Crater is just like our word crater, right? A crater is what? Just a big hole in the earth. A crater is a hole made out of ceramic. So it's a mixing vessel. This is where water from the hydria and then wine from an amphora, typically. Those two would be combined, mixed together. In ancient Greece, they would very much dilute their water with wine. No, the other way around, diluting their wine with water, right? To maybe about, rough alcohol strength of beer, perhaps, 5%, 4% or so, and that means they could party longer, right? So let's just keep moving along. We've got a great fragment. We're just kind of setting the stage, and then we'll dive into a couple drinking games from ancient Greece. So there's this great fragment talking about the crater, this large mixing bowl, and the crater was kind of the unit of measure for how much people were going to indulge in the evening at the symposium. There's a lost play by Eubulus. It's called Semele or Dionysus. That's the name of the play. And there's this one fragment that survives. And this is great. I mean, I imagine from the beauty of this one fragment, how great this play must have been. So, but here the god Dionysus is describing proper and improper drinking for the symposium. And he says, for sensible men, I prepare only 3 craters, 3 of these large bowls. There's typically about like 9 or so people at these drinking parties. So yeah, that would certainly get you fairly hefty. 1 is for health, which they drink first. The 2nd is for love and pleasure. And the 3rd is for sleep. And then after the 3rd one is drained, wise men go home. The 4th crater is not mine anymore. It belongs to arrogance, hubris. Hubris is the ancient Greek word. Arrogance. And the 5th is for shouting. The 6th is for rudeness and insults. The 7th is for fist fights. 8th is for breaking the furniture. And the 9th is for bile. The 10th crater is for madness and unconsciousness. Great quote. Great quote. So here we go. Kotabos was one very popular, the classic ancient Greek drinking game. So actually, I do have an example. We're going to look at kylix. The kylix is a drinking cup from ancient Greece. This is what, it's somewhat speculative. I imagine this is what they would begin their drinking parties with while they're still fairly sober. Here's a kylix in the Art Institute's collection, just a shallow dish, a shallow bowl seen from on top here. There's another side view we can take a look at here. So yeah, you can see it's a very shallow bowl. Looks much like a bowl, but it is a drinking cup. They come in a whole variety of different sizes and slight variations on the theme. So the kylix is a pretty all-purpose, well, ubiquitous drinking wine cup from ancient Greece. And you think this is a very odd shape to be drinking out of, but it reminds me a lot of those champagne glasses. What's the fancy word? Somebody toss it in the chat there. We got the champagne flutes, but then we got those wide open champagne glasses too. And boy, you really, coupe. Is that right? Thank you. You got to be really careful drinking out of one of those. Certainly what you would probably start your libations with, your celebrations. So the kylix. And then kotabos was this fun ancient Greek. Actually, okay, I got it on the screen here, so I'll just bring this up. What I'm going to do is we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to have to. We're going to pause the screen share here, and let's see. Let's do a different share. We're going to share my preview screen. See how this goes. So I don't know how well, if y'all can see this preview. It's a different image. Is that working for you? I hope, maybe. And this is a 3D print. This is a 3D model, a rendering of a kylix cup. And this was done by Westchester University, Pennsylvania, Andrew Snyder. This is wholly made on the computer. But in order to be able to 3D print this kylix cup, which is great. And and he very kindly shared it with me, so that I could generate these the 3D prints and at the Art Institute and be able to pass those around. Let's go back to our screen share here. And there we are, fantastic. So, but Kotoba, you think, okay, well, what did people do with these drinking cups that made this fun drinking game? There's a nice example of the game Kotabos, where you would take these shallow bowls, and ancient Greek wine was not as finely filtered, you could say, as our modern wine. After you drink through a cup, there'd be a lot of residue, a lot of sediment, supposedly, and so you take your finger, your thumb, and stick it through one of the handles, twirl that around, and the dregs would fly out. The residue flies, and you try to strike some sort of a target. The symposium chamber is called the andron. The andron is the men's chamber. The word andron there for gentlemen. So, and at the center of the andron would be the targets, and surrounding the andron you have these reclining couches that the symposiists are lounging on and flinging their residue from. Sounds like fun. Sounds like, gosh, we could try this. And, it certainly is the case that people have. So here's a fun poster session from, so Andrew Snyder, the gentleman who made that 3D model that I shared, and Dr. Heather Sharp, University of Westchester. This poster session that they delivered is experimental archaeology, trying to reconstruct the symposium. So you got some great things here. Let's try to how do we zoom in there? Just double click, Lucas. Great, we can do this. We know how to double click. So you can see some fun times in the college classroom as they are trying to strike their targets. You have these bowls, a large Kylix style bowl filled with these with water, and then these floating cups on it. And the goal was to try to submerge these cups. Also, you might have these tall stands, as you can see here, and have plates balancing on these tall stands, trying to knock those down. So it was a fun event there in the ancient Greek world there. So yeah, they're really getting into it. That's great. So katabos. So we have these we have these Kylix vessels, but sometimes on the underside of the Kylix, the Kylix was such a beautiful large surface that it begged for decoration, for painting in antiquity. And so sometimes you might paint the interior scene. We already saw the interior of this one cup. This is so on the inside, makes a lovely tondo, a fancy art history word for a round image, a round painting. And then you've got also on the exterior, the underside of Kylix vessels, you might have all kinds of decoration. One not uncommon type of decoration would be the eye cup. So boy, they really pulled out all the stops trying to name this type of a vessel, the eye cup. This is a modern term we use to describe this type of vessel. And it's not exclusively Kylix cups. Other amphoras, other types of jars and such might also be painted with eyes on them. So certainly there's a bit of a debate. What was the function of these eyes? Is it like an apotropaic device? Remember, these are funerary objects. This is so by and large, most ancient Greek ceramics that survive in collections today were at one point buried in graves, and so that's really why they survive. So that we think, well, were they made exclusively for burial, or were they enjoyed in life and then tossed into the tomb? Sometimes the decoration will tell you the answer. Maybe if it's a funerary type of emblem painted on there, that suggests, okay, it was made exclusively for the burial. And then what about these eyes, though? Are these the spirits of the deceased looking out? Are these like eyes of the Gorgon Medusa, whose gaze would turn to stone, trying to ward off the evil eye to enter your tomb? So, but it might be a bit of a modern interpretation, but it's the perfect type of drinkware. as you and your symposiasts have been tossing back a few kylakis of wine, and you're sloshing more than you're drinking, you hold this up to your face and you put on this big mask, the great big bulging eyes glaring out at your fellow symposiasts. The hands become kind of like ears. The stem is like a big snout, and it's almost like you become a pig or something in more ways than one through your libations here. So I-cup is a very fun type of vessel from the ancient Greek world. Since we have the beauty of the internet here, I thought, why not just pull up another 3D model of an I-cup, and we can twirl it around and have all sorts of fun. This is in the Harvard Art Museum. So here you see on the interior, you've got the great Gorgon Medusa, fiendishly ugly with snakes for hair, whose gaze would turn you to stone, right? So that's, as you are the drinker quaffing your beverage, you look at that and you're petrified by her gaze. It looks very masculine, but it's meant to be a she, although there's probably a certain type of androgyny in later on. And then, I don't know if I can write this up, but here you have on the underside of the I-cup is the eyes glaring out. So good fun. Sketchfab.com, is a great resource for all sorts of 3D models. Sketchfab and Thingiverse, and there's another one as well. But in terms of drinking and transforming you into swine or donkeys, that's a very much recurring theme in antiquity. And there's you find it in literature, you find it in mythology, you find it in visual arts, and in magic. There's this fragment here from an ancient Greek magical spell, a spell from ancient Greece, a curse basically for how to make men, as it says, to make men who have been drinking at a symposium appear to have donkey snouts to outsiders from afar. So in the dark, you take a wick from a lamp, dip it into donkey's blood, then you make the new lamp from this wick, and then you touch the drinkers. It's not a very complicated spell. I mean, any 6-year-old could probably turn you into an ass if you are drinking too much, but that's how you do it in ancient Greece. Somebody give it a shot and let me know how it turns out. And then becoming a donkey through drinking. This reminds me very much of this probably has to be my favorite object in the whole Art Institute's collection. We're not supposed to play favorites here. That's fine and all dandy, but this is probably my favorite. It is a drinking vessel. Raiton is the name of this very ubiquitous type of drinking mug. This is the pint from ancient Greece, in the shape of a donkey's head. I don't exactly know how much it holds, but probably about a pint, maybe an imperial pint, good 16 ounces there. Cheers. The donkey had a drinking mug. And this is a great point where y'all can unpause or unmute yourself and chime in. What's one of the first things that strikes you about this vessel here? And you see it's not standing upright. It's at an angle. I mean, how do you set it down?
You can't. You have to keep drinking.
You kind of can't, right?
It makes me wonder
first. It
makes me wonder if they ever actually used a
It doesn't really
donkey head.
balance like this. I'm sure there's something behind that's holding it upright. But upside down, you got to polish it off first. The shape lends itself to drinking, to inebriation. And of course, you're never going to empty it and be able to set it down, because some servant's going to come by and fill it up again. So, and then how are you going to drink from it too, right? This is something that I've always wondered. How would you hold it? If you hold it like a normal mug, that ear would get in the way. You'd probably dribble on yourself, right? You could hold it upside down, maybe. You might grasp the handle from the underside and tilt back. And if you're doing so, and actually this is another thing, we've had a lot of fun at the Art Institute, where I have my full-time job there, and we have been having fun with 3D printing a few years back, and we replicated. So there you see the Westchester Kylix, the Westchester University digital model of the Kylix that we replicated as a 3D print. And then you've got a couple things to the side. You have our donkey drinking mug, and another one is a sheep. These are two Crichton vessels in the Art Institute's collection, the donkey and the sheep. We reproduced at a 1-to-1 scale, so people could really get a sense of what it felt like in your hands. We can't touch the originals, but these are all living under my desk right now at the museum. I have a real cheap, simpler copy. I'm going to pause the screen share here so that we can have so the recording at least will pick up what I'm showing here. And so this is of the our sheep. I guess sheep. I always used to call it a goat, but the label calls it a sheep. I don't know. Probably someone out there knows better than I. But the lovely horns there. And I think, yeah, I mean, if you grasp it from the underside and you want to polish off your beverage, you're knocking it back, and all of a sudden, here you take on again. It's this mask, this masking of yourself. In the case of the lovely donkey, you would then bring up having yourself now the face of an ass. Pardon my French. So let me see. How do I get my share back? There we go. And here. Great. So the face of an ass. Great. Good times in ancient Greece. How would you, so now we experimented how you might drink, but at the same time, the funny thing about these Rhiton vessels is so often they, where the snout effectively is, they have holes. Many of them you can drink from perfectly fine, but some of them have holes, and you think, well, that defeats the function, but actually that gets into a drinking game of sorts. I think it's going out on a limb to call it a game. It's more of, a sacred libation vessel. Okay, sure, fine. But I'm sure they had a lot of fun with their sacred libations, lifting this vessel up and a stream of liquid pouring from the mouth you might, as in the case here, see if you can strike your mouth. And other examples of more sacred libation. A libation is just the fancy word for any kind of a poured liquid offering. Here's a lovely image from Pompeii, which shows at the top on the left and the right, you have these two individuals pouring from the Rhiton's mouth this libation into some sort of another vessel. So this is in a tomb. No, this one's from Pompeii, right? The other one's from Herculaneum. But these are, so this might be more evocative of some sacred type of ritualistic prayer, effectively. But the Herculaneum one, I mean, that just looks like fun, right? Trying to pour it into your mouth. And this really reminds me, gosh, of the porron. I don't exactly know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's this very popular Spanish style of wine beaker, where the objective very much is to gamify drinking, where you will hold it aloft and see how far away you can get from the vessel. Someone might be standing even up on the bar, pouring it down into your mouth. And so it's just, it is rife for accidents and spilling wine all over yourself. You note they have white wine and they're not red. Very sneaky. But yeah, so good fun times, even from antiquity to modernity, has carried forward. And this reminds me then also of a Manet painting in the Art Institute of Chicago. Manet, Boy with the Pitcher. I don't know if he's playing a game there, but it's just a convenient type of vessel, this spouted jug, a convenient vessel to be able to pour onto your mouth. This is what, in the age of COVID-19, this is how we can actually, pass the jug around and hopefully not contaminate one another, because you don't even have to put your lips onto it. So, too soon? I don't know. Okay. Last time, so how are we doing on time? We're all halfway through. Hey, we're doing all right. But last time we did talk a bit about the drinking game from ancient China. I don't want to repeat this whole thing right now for the benefit of those who were here last time. But so this, we might hold off on this, and we'll see if we have time at the end. We might come back to this drinking game from ancient China. We'll see. But we're going to launch headlong, zoom far ahead into the what I consider to be the modern world, which is that is the medieval and Renaissance era. And this is now looking at the Pass glass. Great painting at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam is the Pass glass. We can see, so this painting by, who was it? Adriaan van Ostade, 1625 to 1640. We can see the Pass glass here. This very tall, slim beaker. And you'll note how there's a few lines along it. It's a clear glass beaker. It could be cylindrical, might be hexagonal in shape, but you note those lines, almost like a measuring cup. The Pass glass is a popular drinking game vessel, which here in the Art Institute's collection on display in our Deering galleries. Is it on display? Yep, Gallery 238. You can see down here is the Pass glass, a popular pastime, 16th, 17th, 18th century. You see the lines. Sometimes the lines might be a little sloppily tossed on there in the glass making process, because this is a very much almost as much as glass was affordable back then. This was the every man's kind of drinking glassware for these fun drinking games, right? It's interesting. You find you think so different styles of games. Some drinking games rely on skill, that is dexterity, like the kotabos from ancient Greece. Others might rely on perhaps another similar sort of dexterity of holding the right hand vessel aloft and getting it in your mouth. Or think of modern beer pong, relies on a little bit of hand-eye coordination, which only of course just gets worse and worse, or more fun and fun as you keep drinking. Often failure at these drinking game results in some sort of punishment, which is usually only that you have to drink more, right? Kotabos, I don't know if we don't know if there was what the outcome is. If you miss a target, would you have to take a drink? Quite conceivably, but we just don't know that. Pass glass is very much a game that lends itself to intoxication. So the goal is, and the idea is, and you see it in the name too, pass the glass. It's actually from German, but it's the same words, passen, to pass, and then the glass is German. The idea is you fill the whole thing full of some sort of a liquid, some alcoholic beverage. It could be beer, of course. Could be wine for the slightly more adventurous, or if you're really gluttons for punishment and masochists, it could be some kind of a schnapps or something. The goal was you would take a single draught, and in one draught from the glass, try to reach the first line. If you fall short, well, then you got to drink to the next line. If you shoot over the line, you got to, again, drink to the next line. If you keep failing to strike the mark with a single draught, you are punished. At least that's one iteration on the rules. There certainly could be other ways to do it, but so it is a one that somewhat relies a little bit on some coordination, but definitely really clearly punishes you for failure. Some of these Pass glasses were very modest, very simple, but others were much more elaborate. Here's another one. We call it simply a beaker at the Art Institute, 1615 to 1700. But this is a great one. It's beautiful, wonderfully decorated, with a scene of the hunt of the huntsman hunting the hares or the rabbits, and somewhere kicking around there might even be a dog, I don't know. So it's great because it starts from the bottom. We'll work our way up. So you have the huntsman here with his rifle coming after the hares, and then this is the revolt of the animals. You have now all of a sudden the hares, they're rearing up. One seems to have taken the sword from the huntsman and they're coming right after him. He's turned around. You see one on the lower register, he's facing the rabbits. Now he's running away. They catch up to the huntsman. They have stolen his rifle. They have put him in shackles. And then in the final scene, the poor huntsman is hanging from the gallows. Good times. And so, of course, the Pass glass was the game was something that would be celebrated by the gentlemen of society at this time. They would go off on their hunts, like in the English countryside or the German countryside, going on their rabbit hunts, and then come back to the cottage and then just drink copiously, have fun, and play these games. And so it's this interesting subversion that I'm sure the huntsman very much enjoyed, seeing the hunter hanging from the gallows. It's a lot of fun and cute. What's really neat is just a few galleries away from this glass at the Art Institute of Chicago. If you go visit when it reopens, then you can find in our Schützenkammer, where we have our weapons, rifles and such. You'll also find this wheellock rifle of Emperor Leopold I, and the same subject of the rabbits overcoming the huntsman is depicted on this hunting rifle. So you can see it really follows suit, this idea of this inversion of that. It's hard to see. There's a bit of a long spit here where they're roasting the huntsman over the flames, and somewhere kicking around there's a cauldron on here, I think, which shows the hunting dog poking its head out of the cauldron. It's fun, but also really unfortunate. Sorry to I see Donna there with the dog in the audience, so I hope the dog's not too offended. Anywho's, and this brings us in our final few minutes to the puzzle jug. Puzzle jugs are a lot of fun. Another drinking game in the late Renaissance and modern era. Puzzle jugs were popular in the a little bit later than the past glass. Puzzle jugs were a bit more popular in the 18th and 19th centuries, maybe even originating more in the 17th century, but popular again in the mainland of Europe, Germany, France, Italy, England to an extent as well. And puzzle jugs, give you a picture, gosh, and stop staring at words. This is a lovely puzzle jug. And so you think, well, what's so puzzling about it? Well, look at this jug. So this is not something you would, not intended as a drinking mug, more as a serving vessel. At least its shape kind of lends itself to that. But you think, okay, this one is a bit more modest in its detail, but it does have these holes, these perforated holes here towards the top. And you think, okay, well, you can fill it, sure, but how are you going to serve from it? You tilt it and it's just going to, wine or whatever's in there is going to dribble out. Another few great puzzle jugs on display in the Victoria and Albert Museum with real broad open work. These really beautiful examples of the puzzle jug. And clearly you cannot pour from these jugs. You can't even pour it into your mouth. It would spill all over the place. So that's the puzzle. How do you get the liquid out of these jugs? And you see many of them have these spouts, these interesting spouts that you have here up on the top, and go back to the Art Institute's piece and you have these spouts here. So this is the puzzle, this is the joke, this is the game. The idea is these are straws. So a straw, like a drinking straw, you put your mouth to the jug and you see that the rim of the jug is open. It's a hollow tube running around the open rim there. And so you have to put your mouth there, you with suction, and you pull from it like a straw, and that pulls the liquid up through the handle into the rim and through one of the spouts. But you think, okay, there's 1, 2, 3 here, and go back to the V&A as example. You've got, again, 3 spouts, and you think, oh, yeah, you're not going to get a proper suction there, right? That, again, is the fun, the game of it. Only one of these spouts is actually a proper drinking spout, a straw. The other 2 are just pure decoration. And so it's kind of a game. You have to, you pick one, oh, you fail, you're not getting any suction. You try the other one, it doesn't work. Oh, finally, the 3rd time's the charm, and now you can drink your beverage. Or it might be that you have to plug one or the other 2 to create that suction. Then you can drink through it. So it's this fun way. The whole point is that the person on the other end is not in on the joke. Somebody hands you this jug, like, oh yeah, have some. You can have you can have the whole pitcher of wine if you can figure out how you're going to get it out of there. So everybody just sits back and laughs at this poor schlub who's trying to figure out how to get the beverage out of the puzzle jug. So, good times, good times. Puzzle jugs, also another common thing. They are frequently accompanied by these rhyming couplets. That was a fun thing as well. So I can read a few of these rhyming couplets. You can see on the example here, you have all of the written inscriptions on there. So one of these rhyming couplets, some are better than others. Here, gentlemen, come try your skill. I'll hold a wager, if you will, that you don't drink this liquor all without you spill or let some fall. Fun times. Here's another one. This is from the 1700s, these two. Fill me with ale or wine or water. Any of the three, it makes no matter. Drink me dry if you are willing, and in doing so, I'll give you a shilling. All right. Don't worry, I only have two more. We're halfway through. Within this jug, you'll find, within this jug, there is good liquor. 'Tis fit for parson or for vicar. But how to drink and not to spill will try the utmost of your skill. That's a 19th century one. I don't know if they're getting better or worse in time. Last one, 19th century. From Mother Earth, I claim my birth. I made a joke for men. But now I'm here, filled with good cheer. Come taste me if you can. Oh, very charming. Witty, that one. So here we are, 7:13. Okay, we've exhausted it. I do have just a little bit of some recommended reading. Here's a lovely photo of my shelf behind me. This is a modern replica of an ancient Chinese raitan I meant to show off last week when we were doing drinking games. Oh no, what were we doing? We were doing drinking culture in ancient China. So here are a few books you can check out if you're interested, delving through antiquity, medieval world, a couple great ones here, even in getting into how to brew as well. And of course, one of the great standbys is the comic book story of beer. Definitely something to be on a lot of people's shelves. We've got about 15 minutes left to this happy, fun conversation. And certainly I would love if anybody has any thoughts, comments, questions, observations, anything to share. Do chime in, please. Absolutely. Whether it's in the chat box, if I can find that again, there's the chat box, or unmute yourself, speak, share, talk up.
Lucas, this is Carol. Where was the past glass? What gallery was that in with the rabbit?
Yeah. Stop the screen share. So if we don't have any thoughts or comments, we've got, one last thing we didn't touch on this time. Let's see. Oh, we do have one question in the chat, which is, how can anyone craft some puzzle jugs for us to apply our skills to when this all ends? I agree. I wonder, it's been a while. I've scouring Amazon or Etsy or other online vendors to see. I'm pretty sure there's some puzzle jugs out there that one might be able to encounter. But yeah, eBay, okay, used to have them, but that'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to add some puzzle jugs to my collection there. The rabbit pint glass, where's that from? That's in the Art Institute of Chicago. I think a lot of what I've been showing is from the Art Institute. Getting a couple comments about some audio issues. I don't know, is it hard for people to hear? Thumbs up is okay, yeah. I'm getting some thumbs up there. So yeah. Cool. All right, and y'all feel free, certainly unmute yourselves if you want to chime in that way. Which gallery the rabbit glass is in? Which gallery is the rabbit glass in? That's gallery 200, second floor. Let me look up here. The beaker, the pass glass, right. The rabbit glass is in the European Decorative Arts section. That's 234. Yeah, no, the rabbit glass is currently off view. Shame. Okay, well, we tried. Is that right? Interesting. Okay, it was just there. Well, everything's off view right now, but bad joke. Any other thoughts in the chat box? Let me scroll up, see what y'all been saying. Something, just we have a errata here. Well, not really an errata, but one thing I was talking about last time in ancient China, how they would brew their wine, as labels and museums often call it, sometimes really more as a grain alcohol, so made of during the Shang dynasty in ancient China, around like 1500s to 1000 BC, and even further, a little beyond, was how to make this, how to ferment this beverage. And so one way to malt the grain, the millet grain and sorghum and rice. So I mentioned the mastication method, that is chewing these grains, and we have enzymes in our mouth to activate those, turning those starches into sugars. But one probably a bit more popular method of malting or activating the grains that I failed to mention last time would be a mold saccharification method. That is the same way often that like soy sauce today or sake is produced through a type of koji mold that grows on the grain, and that also then activates these enzymes, turning these starches into sugars. So yeah, I just wanted to toss that out there because it's something very much that I wanted to mention last time and just totally plumb forgot. So typical consumption of alcohol, what was that like in previous times? Like the average daily consumption of wine amongst the ancient Greeks, for example, or was it only on special occasions or for the very wealthy? Just considering the ubiquity of drinkware from ancient Greece, and this is a bit speculative. That might be a good thing to toss next week to Travis Rupp, who will be leading our next virtual happy hour on Wednesday. It's going to be 4:30 Central Time. Travis from UC Boulder and also Avery Brewing Company. He leads up their barrel aging project and their historical beer brewing project there. So he's going to be speaking about beer in the world of wine, so the ancient Aegean or ancient Mediterranean, really. And so certainly though, but yeah, I think just as wine today can be a drink for everyone, that it's widely accessible, much as beer as well, but widely available and accessible, and runs the whole range of the simple table wine to very fancy, expensive wines. So too, I would speculate in ancient Greece that just wine was all over the place. Yeah. What's my favorite drinking game? I'm getting asked. All right, Aaron. Yeah. I don't want to play favorites here. So no, I mean, I haven't really dabbled too much in modern drinking games, not a whole lot. I haven't even tried my lot with kotabos, if you can imagine. And then there's also supposedly the, what is it called from ancient Greece? I want to say, is it the Aristotelian or the Archimedean cup? But this lovely cup from the ancient Greek world, where it's a type of trick vessel. If you fill it too much, then all of a sudden it has again this false cavity, which activates this suction that pulls the whole liquid out of the cup, and it spills all over your tabletop if you are a little too much of a glutton and overfill it. So there you go, Pythagorean. It was on the tip of my tongue. Thanks, Brett. So, all right. Well, with this, I thank you all. All right, folks. Cheers. Thanks. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. You all have a good one.
Thank you.